SemeAd Tour, uma visitação ao vivo pelo SemeAd.
Olá, repórter SemeAd Ítalo. Como
E
vai,
aí,
Ítalo?
professor?
Como estamos aí com tantas alternativas? O que você escolheu para mostrar aqui para o telespectador?
Eu escolhi especialmente para o seu Banding, que está agora dando sua palestra, né, como keynote speaker. Vamos dar uma espiadinha?
Vamos lá, porque esse assunto que ele está falando aí de stakeholders, relacionamento com stakeholders, é algo realmente muito importante, que está em voga, o pessoal está estudando, grande oportunidade para se conhecer a respeito. Vamos lá, Ítalo.
Vamos ver o que está acontecendo.
Their identity or their strategy. It's just kind of another thing that's in that external environmental sphere that they have to deal with, and they have to kind of decide how they're going to prioritize that. And so if you take the two dimensions, the identity and the strategy dimension, you put them against these three ways of being perceived, you get a 3x3 typology. And don't worry about trying to understand this. I'll walk you through it in just a second. But essentially, it gives us a way of understanding how issues resonate with managers. So, for
A
example,
pesquisa do professor Banding faz uma abordagem comportamental para a gestão estratégica e se concentra, né, nas forças sociais e cognitivas que moldam o resultado e o comportamento organizacional. Ele investiga especificamente o gerenciamento de crises e impressões, estuda também reputação cognitiva e outras avaliações sociais, relacionamentos entre firmas e stakeholders, assim como governança corporativa.
Again, if you look to the top, it's unrelated to their strategic
Vamos
frame.
ver o que é que o Banding
But
está.
if you look to the
Vamos
left, it's
escutar o que é que o Banding
consistent
está
with how they define themselves in terms of their organization identity. So this is what we would call an expressive salient issue. It's something that connects with who they are, which might motivate some action. And so getting back to my experiences with Intel, you know, their motto at the time of building a better world is our business. And so you can see how concerns with their impact on the environment might resonate quite well with that motto of theirs. And I can tell you, working with Intel on a daily basis, they sponsor just about every event in the community. Any barbecues, any holidays or festivals, any parades, anything like that. Always Intel would donate money and time and resources towards those community events. So they're very connected with the community. In fact, the local manager of the factory was also their number one public relations person in the community. I got to know him very well. And so it was very much a part of who they are and who they were at the time. And so we believe that when those, you know, even low power protesters came to Intel and said, we want you to think about this and we want you to do something about it, even though it, you know, again, it wasn't going to affect Intel either way if they said no, because none of the other stakeholders around them really cared or supported this issue. It wasn't going to show up on the news as a negative mark against them. So it was, we think at least, completely unrelated to their strategic direction of the firm, right? It didn't impact, in fact, if anything, it negatively impacted their strategy because it took resources and time to address the issue. But we do think that it spoke quite strongly to their identity, who they are, how they define themselves. And in fact, in kind of post-event interviews that I did with the managers there, that's exactly what they told me. I showed you a picture of three of the protesters, and in fact, the manager of the factory lived 3 houses away from the primary protester in that group. And so, and he said, I couldn't imagine sending my kids to school with her kids or seeing her at the grocery store after telling her no on that issue. It was something that was very relevant to him and how he defined himself and how he defined Intel's role in the community. And so if you think about issue salience in action, so this protest connects with Intel and with the managers at Intel, with their identities and how they define themselves. The degree of perceived salience, we think, in turn determines how firms act towards stakeholders. So again, returning to the 3x3 here, for Intel, this issue again was unrelated to their strategic frame. It was very consistent with their identity. We call this an expressive opportunity and would likely result in symbolic accommodative action. We call it symbolic
business,
because Intel probably
corre
could
lá
have
no
done more.
online.semead,
Like I said, they did a
acessa a
multi-million-dollar
programação
study, so it wasn't
e participa
substantial, but
dessa
they're a
e de todas as outras atividades que estão acontecendo nesse momento.